Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to a very special series of StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is a best of 5 finals that is played in a 2 versus 2 tournament. Now spawning right here in the top left, I think it's the top left? Yes, top left hand corner of a map called Reclamation. Playing with the blue Protoss species, we have none other than the highest ranked Protoss on the planet, and he goes by the name of MaxPax's. His ally in this particular match, we're looking at none other than Spirit's main command center, one of Europe's greatest Terrans. Their opponents, though, in the opposite corner, first off, joined right here with the little Basilisk logo on the main nexus, we're looking at Trigger's main base. And then right over here, really? The Polar Bear Man is also playing Protoss? We have none other than the world champion of StarCraft 2. He goes by the name of Clem. This particular series is the 2v2 finals of the very first uThermal 2v2 tournament. I was actually talking to Mark about this, and apparently he's got a lot more events planned over the next couple of months. So I'm very excited for it. If you guys enjoy watching high-level 2 versus 2, I mean, it's one of those parts of StarCraft 2 that is not unexplored, but at the very least at a high level, StarCraft 2 has always been about 1 versus 1. Right now we have a bit of a lull in 1v1 tournaments in general, and it looks like there's some opportunity for some experimentation, and one of those is running regular 2v2 events. Now, if you guys are enjoying this, please let me know, because I am more than down to go ahead and cover some more. I could go and host some of my own. I don't know. There's many things we can do here. So, if you're interested, please do let me know. I'm excited to find out exactly what ended up going down between these 4 players. Now, I do want to warn you that 2v2, 3v3, 4v4 in StarCraft 2, all extremely chaotic. In general, the maps are also pretty garbage. So I don't know what maps we're going to be playing on. I don't know if they're just going to be the ladder maps or not, but most of the time it is a questionable map pool. Let's leave it at that. Not nearly as refined as 1 versus 1. So we have Trigger going into a double gateway opener, opening up with Adepts. Clem has decided to follow this up as well with now 2 Stalkers. So we have double gateway openers from both of the Protoss players over here. Their opponents in the meantime playing a bit more of a macro-focused approach, it looks like. Yeah, we have a Stargate built here by MaxPax's. In general, in 2v2, Phoenixes are amazing. So the more Phoenixes you can build, generally the better it's going to be. Not exactly sure what the dynamic against Protoss would be. But there is no denying that this could certainly become a little bit messy. It looks like they're playing almost synchronized build orders here. Trigger and Clem trying to do the same thing. One easy way, by the way, to sort of keep track of who's who. We have like a red-ish team and then a blue-ish team. So there are some rules as far as the colors of the players go. So it's at least a little bit easier to follow. When I first started watching a 2v2 game myself, that did not occur to me at all. Maybe it's because I'm dumb. Maybe it's because I am stupid. But we have the red-ish team going up against the blue-ish team. Right, we have the 2 colors and then orange mixed in as well. Anyways. Adepts not really achieving all too much, although a little bit of economic damage was dealt. Additional Stalkers right now do show up right here for Clem. Yeah, it's a forced Oracle. In the meantime, we also have a Void Ray coming up on the back of this. MaxPax's really trying to just stay alive for now. That shield battery absolutely critical. Follow-up damage right now, though, from the players from the bottom right-hand corner. Yeah, it's going to be nice, but they don't have a ton of production, so they really just have to maximize damage over here. They do both of them together snipe down a single siege tank, which is nice and all, but I think that this is mostly held at this point in time. Obviously, though, this is Clem we're talking about. Very aggressive player in general. Very micro-heavy player in general, so he's going to continue trying. But this should all be relatively defendable at this point in time. It's going to be Blink and Blink. The Blinky Boys. Maybe that can be their team name. Do we need team names? I'm not sure, but they can be known as the Blinky Boys. Both of them are going to make Stalkers, and apparently they're going to dance. Now, word on the street has it that MaxPax's and Spirit are amazing dancers. Are you Protoss, or are you It's an amazing song too, but anyways, it is Blink Night now, I guess on the back of this too from MaxPax's. We'll have to see exactly what he does, but that would be the natural transition from here. Spirit, though, ready to push all of this back. Keep in mind, he did lose a tank. Losing the tank is a little bit annoying for him. We have 3 Blinks, by the way. What's the plural of Blink? I don't know. We have a lot of Blinkerinos on the production tab. Blinkusies on the... Yeah, we have a lot of Blink on the production tab. I think there's enough, though, right here for the players in the bottom right-hand corner to... Yeah, push all of this away. I don't think you can really commit. The maps in 2v2 in general are obviously a lot bigger. So, the bigger the map, the longer the rush distance, and therefore, usually the easier it is to defend. Now, if you can get some... Say, for example, you can warp in units, right? But be it with a gateway or a prism or something like that, you can mitigate a lot of the map size. But especially for Terran here, you do have to travel a very long distance to really go anywhere. So going back home here, I think, was the wise decision. The longer you stick around there, the more likely it is that the opponents are going to have an easy time. Trigger and Clem, though, are now done with their Blinky boys. But, yeah, they do walk into a stasis ward. Single sentry puts down a force field. I'm a little afraid for these stalkers, though obviously they can use blink right when they get out of the stasis. MaxPax's is trying to guard his prey over here. Now they're setting up surrounds everywhere. No matter where you blink, buddy, you're always gonna lose some of them. Good movement in general. Trigger actually trying to see if he could potentially help his friend out by blinking into the main base. These stalkers have pretty much nowhere to go. They decide to recall back home. And that Protoss mobility is really, really nice. Third Nexus now. Almost done for both of them. Third Nexus already finished as well for MaxPax's. Third Command Center just begun here for Spirit. But we actually have a nice competitive macro game to start things off. Void Ray is gonna die. Rest in pieces. Many of them. I believe, by the way, lore-wise, Void Rays are supposed to be the size of about the entire map. So, lots of pieces. Look at the production tabs, man. It's it is awfully similar. It's growing at a very similar rate, too. Yeah, look at that. We do have a Robo Bay here, however, whereas Clem has not got the Robo facility done yet. He's also getting blinked on, Trigger that is, on the other side of the map. MaxPax's a very strong defensive player, of course. Manages to keep all of this at bay. I mean, this is chaotic, but it's relatively controlled chaos. I think it's one of those situations, right? So, if we're gonna see tournaments in 2v2 for a couple of months, there's a very good chance that the strategy is gonna get refined a lot. Like, there's a lot of casual 2v2 enjoyers, and that's fair enough. But I wouldn't be surprised if the strats we're gonna see today are very different than the ones we'll see in like a month or two. Because this is basically 3 guys making stalkers. They're like, ooh, stalker. More Ooga Booga strategy. Stalker good, stalker. Anyways, Dark Shrine's now also finishing up. Maybe in a month from now, we will see very refined strategies with all kinds of finesse as far as unit compositions go. And then in 2 months from now, we once again see Mass Stalker. That is also a very viable path. We'll have to see what the actual strats are going to be. Maybe the low IQ and the super high IQ strategy is to go for Mass Stalker. Alright, a little unnecessary. I think it could have kept flying, but it's because there's a fight going on as well at the front. Zealot's mostly just a distraction. The siege tanks here, though, from Spirit are doing a really nice job keeping this army at bay. And this should be pretty much, yeah, held. So really nice defensive player from Spirit and MaxPax's. I'm actually pleasantly surprised. I wasn't sure what to expect from this particular series, but it's very clear that everybody here has been thinking about it. And they have been trying their best to come up with good strats. I've noticed when playing a bunch of 2v2 myself, playing defensively is really hard. Because it involves something that StarCraft players are absolute garbage at, and that is communication. Yeah, talking to your ally and trying to explain what your plan is whilst playing the game is really tough. So it seems to me that Spirit and MaxPax's are actually like a well-oiled machine so far. Looking really strong. I wonder, by the way, if these are preset teams. I would imagine not. I would imagine that these are players that just signed up as a team like this. We have Zealots now together, by the way, with a bunch of Dark Templar. One of the rich gas geysers is being shot at right now. Colossi from the low ground being a bit of a nuisance. Marines going in on the right side of the map. Recall is going to be used on a bunch of those units, and it's going to force that medevac drop to head back home. One Dark Templar here being an absolute pain in the butt as well. This is MaxPax's aggression. Yeah, MaxPax and Spirit are actually just outgrowing the opponents. They will be reaching a maxed out state here in just a moment. We will have MaxPax and Maxed Spirit. And this is going to be a good army for him. Trigger does have a Dark Shrine of his own now, and he decides to warp in a couple of those units, but the Dark Shrine from Clem has already forced out defenses. Oh, ooh, careful. Keep in mind that Purification Novas can hit your friendly units, including your allies. Terran army, in the meantime, trying to come in from the high ground here. They're going to go through the rocks, and they'll be trying to see if they can create a chokehold onto this base. A scanner reveals exactly where the Protoss' armies are at. His ally, in the meantime, distracting that of Clem. I think he should be able to easily finish off this Nexus. That's exactly what happens. Great movement here by MaxPax and Spirit. There is an attempted run-by towards the bottom left. It's not even just attempted, it's a successful one, as the Nexus does get cancelled, but I don't think that these players in blue are going home. Pretty sure they're going to continue fighting. There's not that much available. MaxPax can warp in some defenses as he wants to. He's going to need to, I think, because otherwise he's going to be in a world of trouble. That's where the Dark Templar once more come in. Lovely moves. I don't believe we have any Purification Novas available. There's just a single Disruptor over here. How much can it do? Not much, because it gets killed. Good targeting right there with the siege tanks. Yeah, so they set back. They maxed out. It took them about 10 minutes. And then they started carving a path. This is actually really difficult to play. I mean, maybe they're going to be able to hold on, but I think Spirit's economy at this point is too big for this really to get stopped. There's a bunch of Zealots and Dark Templar that might eventually clean all of this up. Keep in mind that detection in 2v2 is shared, so you don't need individual detection in this sort of situation. As long as there's an observer nearby, you should be okay. Scan is obviously going to be really nice as well. Yeah, GG. Well done right here by Max and Spirit. This is exactly what I was trying to highlight. The low IQ strategy, Stalker good. The high IQ strategy, Stalker also good. For us normies in the middle of this bell curve, yeah, we mostly believe that we need complex strategies, but I do believe Stalker is good though. That's going to take us to game number 2, which takes place on a map called Undercurrent. Will they get swept away? Stay tuned to find out. Is this the Undercurrent? No, I don't think so. No, over here is the Undercurrent. Does look like we're once more on the bottom of the ocean. Now, as you know, the friends that wall off together, they stay together. Who gets to complete it? Ah, we're gonna put a gateway down there. Ah, get wrecked with your barracks. Where are you gonna put the barracks? High testosterone play right there by MaxPax. Taking control of that ramp. Very, very cool. Now, the only problem, and again, this comes down to communication, but the problem with walling in together like this is that you do need to shout to your Terran friend to lower the depot. If you've played... Thank you for highlighting it. If you've played any team games in StarCraft 2, a big chunk of it is shouting at your ally to open the door. Open the door. Okay, I'm assuming they're on voice chat, so it should be relatively quick, but if you're playing like random queue 2 versus 2, or 3v3, 4v4, man, there's a lot of frantic typing that usually goes on in the middle of the game. Until somebody gets angry. They start writing all kinds of nasty stuff. Anyhow, voice chat should make all of that a little bit easier. Cybercore right now on the back of this. You can share control. One of the options that you have is to share control. You can enable that in the top right hand corner. And you can also actually share resources. This is a mechanic that I think has a lot of strategic depth. Like, you could have one guy dedicated to macro, right? One player that only does income. And then you can send all of that money to your ally. That alone, that mechanic alone, should add incredible layers of debt. I don't think there's really a whole lot that has been explored as far as that goes. I might be wrong. I don't really know too much about top level 2v2. I think it's because there is no top level 2v2 at the moment. Like, there will be over the next couple of months, assuming this will keep going. But we have Clem, by the way, switching over to Terran. I haven't even mentioned that yet. But that is something that needs to be taken into consideration. And you can also share control. So you can set it up in such a way that your ally can control your units as well as their own. That includes the supply depot. The only problem is if you have an ally, spoiler alert, I am that ally. If you have an ally that uses the all army hotkey a little too much, that can be annoying. Yeah, I'm that guy. Yeah, that's me. Anyways, it's gonna be a Twilight Council opener here once more for Trigger. And we do have Phoenixes now building here for Max. Phoenixes in general are very nice units in 2 versus 2 and team games in general. They're a unit that, in general, can get incredible value. And they seem to get better the more allies you have. A couple Marines joining in as well. Not quite enough right here to really keep all of this going. Command Center will eventually finish up over here on the high ground too. Keep in mind, though, that is the 3rd base for Clem. So Clem actually playing a big macro game. I do believe, by the way, that this is a significantly better setup. I think going Protoss is a fun idea, but Terran Protoss in my mind is much better than Protoss. In general, I think mixed is much better here. It just makes the game stronger. Oh, we have 3 additional Stargates coming up. Is MaxPax's going 4 Stargate Phoenix? 4 Stargate Phoenix into probably Carrier is going to be the weapon of choice right here for MaxPax's. +1 is coming up. In team games, especially in 3v3s and 4v4s, there's always that guy in the corner who's making carriers. Lucky for Spirit, that guy is MaxPax's. There's always that one dude, man, who's like doing nothing other than make carriers. Who just sits there for 20 minutes maxing out. Lucky for Spirit here. MaxPax's is phenomenal. Going in for the mass repair right now is Clem, keeping that Cyclone around for a little bit longer. Yeah, he's making 4 Phoenixes at once. This is not something you very commonly see. I like it. Yeah. He's getting a lot of units out there to lift. Everybody needs a gym buddy every once in a while, where your motivation is slipping. Spirit is getting encouraged right now by MaxPax's. Here goes he again. Bro, do you even lift? He's lifting everything. Okay, maybe he lifted a little too much. An over-ambitious lift. A rapid-fire lift. He's got 2 control groups of Phoenixes? I don't think anybody's ever done that before. There was a 2nd group over here going to town in the natural. 8 probes have actually died. 1 SCV as well. This is not bad. That command center, I mean, it's gonna land. Even with the whole crew together, you cannot lift up a command center, but they actually do deal quite a bit of damage. Yeah, MaxPax's certainly doing the heavy lifting so far. +1 does make a difference. Ooh. Another factory coming up here for Spirit, who is going into a little bit of Terran mech. So they actually have strategic depth and multiple builds? Well, follow me surprised. I wasn't sure what to expect going into this, but it's clear to me that they have been putting in some work. Now, keep in mind that this is the finals of a tournament. There's a good chance that the work they've been putting in is literally this one tournament. I don't really know. Like, there's a chance that they just started off in the first round of the event, and they kind of just got used to each other's playstyles a little bit throughout that same day. But yeah, I mean, if this is the result after like maybe a dozen games, I mean, it's impressive. Fleet Beacon indeed coming up right now for Max, who's gonna go into a forge as well. I mean, they're destroying them. At least as far as eco goes. Yeah, Clem and Trigger's armies are huge. And that's what I'm wondering about. Have the players in red just not got way too many units? I mean, yeah, you can lift up Stalkers, but Marines is not gonna be really a viable choice. Spirit is trying to play a macro game like he was never gonna get attacked. I think this is a great idea right here from both Trigger as well as Clem. Just move across the map and try to see if you can go kill him. Now that the Phoenixes are home too, I mean, there's gonna be a moment where those Phoenixes commit. I mean, I don't think this is it though. Is it? Ugh, I don't like this. I mean, that's a lot of Phoenixes, but there's way more Marines than Stalkers. He just doesn't have enough energy to possibly lift up even remotely enough of them. So, enough economical damage has been dealt to the point where Clem and Trigger decided to just go all in, and that was it. No, 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 no. You guys had one job, and that is to pick the right colors. All right, well, remember what I said earlier? We can throw it out of the window. Now it's gonna be difficult to watch because Trigger is in blue, Clem is in red, Spirit, who's their opponent, is in blue, and MaxPax's is in purple. Why purple? I don't know. No idea. There's a good chance somebody asked the other to change colors and they were like, LOL, no. I've seen a lot of pre-game lobby chat. I actually think the color rule is very important. If you're gonna run 2v2 or team events in general, it's very important to get a rule out there for color choice. We need to have a couple of preset ones. One team that's like purple and pink, I guess, could work. Dark blue and light blue could work. You can have a couple of different flavors. There's a couple different tones and shades of green too. But when we're just completely mixing and matching all of the different colors, it's fine for the players. Pretty terrible for anybody watching, though. Yeah, I can't switch colors like that in the replay files. So when you're playing in game, you can hit Alt plus F, and it will change to the different color layouts. So you can set up an alternative color in the color settings in the game. You can hit Alt plus F to trigger it in game. Does not work in replays. Does not work as an observer. The only thing I can hit is Alt F4, but that is a suboptimal strategy to say the least. Okay, so a little bit confusing. I'm hoping for the next game that they're gonna be switching back. This is a best of 5, so we are certainly gonna get another game after this. I think that previous game sort of settled the games a little bit, right? I mean, it was a nice opener by MaxPax's in particular, and it would have worked great if Clem and Trigger decided to just take a bit of a chill pill and sit back for a long while. But they didn't. It's one of those great things where if you were playing SimCity, it would have worked out just fine. But the problem is you're playing a real-time strategy game, so... Oh, okay. Well, Spirit has decided to just... Really? There's a base over here, bro. Spirit is the nice guy, Terran, huh? I mean, Spirit's actually a very nice guy in person, too, but... I do believe that you should have taken this one and let MaxPax's deal with the more exposed base a little bit later on. Maybe they've thought about it, I'm not sure. Bit of a dance here at the front. The bunker is going to keep everybody safe, though. This choke point over here for Clem is pretty well managed. Blink coming up again here for Trigger. We have a third command center building here for Clem. I wonder what the weapon of choice here for Max is going to be. So it's not going to be a Stargate build this time around. We're going back to the good old Blink Stalker. I don't think I don't think he actually failed playing the Phoenixes. I think he was doing fine. They just got a little carried away. Like, sometimes the strategy doesn't work, but it's because the strategy needed refinement, right? Like, it's very common. I see this all the time, actually, where people are like, well, the build order didn't work. Guess I need to try something else entirely. And then they just throw the entire build order out of the window and go do something else. I mean, that's one of the options. You can also adjust. And I think overall that previous build was fine. It just needed a little bit of refinement. Maybe not even from his side. Maybe from his allies' side, right? Like, imagine if there was already a lot of additional siege tank production. Anyways, MaxPax's obviously has a very deep understanding of this game. He's now decided to go for a very committed push. Maybe that's the idea with the forward command center. I don't know if Clem and Co have seen it. No, Trigger has not seen it either, but maybe if they would have seen this base, they would have assumed that this one was going to be a very quick third Nexus. Now, there is a third Nexus on the back of this, but this is for all intents and purposes a very committed push. MaxPax's is going Mass Gateway, Dark Shrine on the back of it too. He's already started working on some of those rocks. Does Spirit actually have anything to attack with, though? No, not really. Spirit has a Hellion and 2 Reapers. That's nice. He's helping. This one feels a little disjointed to me. Like, MaxPax's is ready to go and fight. Although I say that, he's actually hit almost a bit of a supply block. Do we have enough to really push through? Yeah, maybe if Spirit had enough units here too. Like, if he would have gone for like a Cyclone push or something like that. This could work out wonderfully, but ultimately this is a 2v1. Now, the Dark Templar could actually win him the game. There's not a lot of detection here for the players in the top left-hand corner of the map. Clem and Trigger, as far as that goes, they don't have a whole lot. They are going to be able to push this back. The invisible men will soon be hitting the battlefield. How much detection is there? Oh, never mind. No more invisible men. We're going to do more stalkers instead. I think in this game, Spirit may very well be doing what I was trying to indicate in the previous one. Because MaxPax's production is actually too big for the amount of stuff that he's making here. Like, he doesn't have enough income to support this by himself, so I guess he's being fed. I think Spirit is basically saying, yo, buddy, here, have some stonkers. Get your stonks up. Your stalker stonks. Because I don't think he really has money to support this. Yeah, if you look at the supply count right now, you'd almost imagine that Spirit is AFK. But I guess what he's doing is actually feeding his opponent. I wish there was, like, is there a visual indicator anywhere on the screen of that? I don't think so. A visual indicator of that in the observer interface would be awesome. Maybe it's unnecessary. Anyways. In the meantime, there is a drop going on too. 2 medevacs filled with units are gonna drag a lot of these troops on the other side of the map back home. And this is one of those situations where the best defense is the offense. This has set MaxPax's back all the way. And that means that all of this has been held. Stimpak coming up. +1 coming up as well. The intended play was to try and go all in with Blink Stalkers and then follow it up with Dark Templar if needed. What is the follow-up going to be? I have noticed, by the way, quite a few supply blocks throughout these games. Spirit right now hitting a pretty big one. I think a lot of that is due to the fact that they are not quite able to autopilot very smoothly. A lot of StarCraft mechanics will carry over from game mode to game mode, but 2v2 is a bit of a different beast. You're just not really in your groove so much when you're talking. It really is an extra skill level. Like, it's an extra skill to be able to communicate effectively. Medevac drop going in. And so far, Clem and Trigger have been doing a great job defending. And we can get an Archon going over here, but unlikely to do too much. A bunch of Zealots trying to come in clutch to at least get some revenge on the Archon. Archon got, well, sniped down, but the rest of the units have now disappeared. Sensor Tower, though, is also going to get sniped. This is a new Nexus that just was finished here for MaxPax's, and that one is not going to stay around for much longer. Okay. This will not be... Oh, I think there's an overextension, though. Yeah, this will not be too bad, but the thing is, you do need to be attacking with the both of you, right? So, there were a lot of units there on the other side of the map, but Clem was not part of the party. I believe he was invited, but he didn't show. Maybe for the next one. Yeah, maybe the next party. They can hang out together. It's important to catch up. Spirit and Max have no idea that this is coming. They have no idea. They have not seen this in a while. They're actually completely blind. Now they see that there's an army in the far bottom left of their bases. I think they can just go straight through the center. Clem's army supply at this one is absolutely massive. It's still this choke point over here, though, that's difficult to break. Stalker's actually blocking the advancement of the Marines. Blinks across those force fields and across his allied Marines, too, to try and get on top of the siege tank. Does get the job done, but it was quite a costly snipe. Marines are now chasing those Stalkers of MaxPax's, though, all the way back into the main base. In the meantime, there's a medevac drop as well from Spirit. On the other side of the map, we have a Dark Templar as well as a Zealot going to town, but ultimately, it's Clem and Trigger who get a second point on the board. Next up, we find ourselves on Yellow Jacket. And it looks like the players got shouted at. They've actually picked the right colors for the next game. So once more, we have Team Red going up against Team Blue. Yellow Jacket, by the way. There's a Yellow Jacket in the middle of the map. Yeah, fun fact. They did recently overhaul, at least in 2v2 terms. They did recently overhaul some of the 2v2 maps. I know that 2v2 maps for a long time were not the best. Not the greatest. Okay. So, where do we go from here? So, game number 1, MaxPax's and Spirit were really smooth. I was actually very impressed with the way they were playing defensively. Then, in the previous couple games, they just seemed to have sort of lost it a bit. The Mass Phoenix style from MaxPax's was really cool, but they just didn't have enough stuff. Then, in the third game of the series, we had Spirit feeding MaxPax's so you could make a ton of Stalkers. And it's nice and all, but it didn't really seem that refined. I mean, that is maybe the key word here, though. Maybe we do need to just see some more refinement in that department, and it is a viable strat, but yeah, it just could have been managed a little bit better than that. Maybe go back. If you're MaxPax's Spirit here, maybe go back to the original plan. Try to play it safely, try to just absorb every attack, and then overwhelm eventually. But it's a bit of a long game plan and a bit of a risky one, because obviously, well, Clem and Trigger now have a bunch of practice against that exact strategy as well. Clem no longer messing around, though, with double Protals, and maybe that's the reason, right? Like, he's not playing Protals here. Maybe that's also why MaxPax's and Spirit were feeling relatively comfortable in that first game. That's one of the things when you're playing, like, the exact same race as your ally. It becomes much easier for the opponents to predict what the correct playstyle is. Because you only really have to think about one set of units. I think the real strength of 2v2 is when you're mixing and matching different armies together. It's a fun little thought experiment, actually. What do you think would be the strongest unit composition if you could make an army from 2 races at the same time? Early game, mid game, late game. Like, imagine if you could go for, like, an Immortal Hydra all-in. Would that be broken? I have no idea. What about Immortal Ravager? That sounds pretty insane to me. If you could pick a unit composition of, like, 3 units. Bit of a skirmish here in the early game. Ultralisks and Medevacs. Medevacs can heal anything biological. Every Zerg unit is biological. Fun fact, in 2 versus 2 as well, if you are a Terran player and your ally is going Immortals, you can repair Immortals. It's very cursed, but SCVs can repair Immortals. Well, I haven't seen it in many years, but they always could. I would not imagine it changed. But it's been about 7 years since I've last seen that. Let's see. MaxPax's going around the site, trying to see what's happening. In the meantime, it's using this as an opportunity right now to get that Reaper in. Nice control here by Spirit, but good defense as well by Trigger and Clem. Not caught that easily. It will be Blinky Boys once more. Blinky Boys from both of the Protoses. But obviously we did see that Stargate beginning here for Max, who's now going to start zapping away. Never mind, zapping with a Stasis Ward instead. Ooh. It's gonna get pushed around. Third command center here. Clem is actually opting for this build pretty much every single time. It's the quick triple CC. Now transitioning towards bio. What do you think is the strongest unit across the board? Like the most useful troop in all of 2 versus 2. One unit. It's probably something boring like a marine, but I'm thinking maybe like a medevac or like a warp prism. It's probably marine. Man with gun. Pretty good. Can't complain. Okay. I guess High Templar could be good. Ghost can be really good as well. But it's gotta be a unit that is like unsurprisingly useful in 2v2 compared to the other matchups. I would say a unit like the Swarm Host is probably worse. But maybe there's some viability. Like maybe there's some usefulness there. There's gotta be some crazy use cases, especially for like the drop mechanics. I think the medevac in particular, actually. Like medevac being able to heal anything biological. You could do some crazy cool attacks, actually, with, I think, Zerg Terran. You could do some crazy cool stuff. Lovely stasis is here. Ha! MaxPax's actually catches both of the groups. I don't think Trigger is really gonna take a lot of damage here. These units can just blink backwards and it should be fine. Dark Shrine on the back of this here too for Max. Once more, it's a lot of Dark Templar play. Maybe Dark Templar are actually one of those units that like gain more value than they do in 1 versus 1. Hard to say if it's because players just aren't very used to playing 2v2 or if it's because it's actually good. Another big stasis ward over here. Man, MaxPax's. MaxPax's actually demolishing Trigger in these games. Every time I've seen an engagement between the two, I feel like Spirit is... Or Trigger, rather, has not really had a chance. Gets one of the siege tanks, too. Oracle gets sniped. Stalkers over here are gonna wake up. I'm trying to think what would be the craziest, silliest strategies you could go for. Yeah, you could boost into your opponent's main base with a medevac, then use the medevac for vision to spawn a Nidus Worm, and then use the medevacs to heal up the lurkers that come out of the... There's gotta be some cursed synergies. There's gotta be some crazy stuff that doesn't even really make sense, but could accidentally work. There's some unexplored territory for sure. Now the dancing in the middle of the map continues. I don't really know exactly if Team Red is, really happy to go for a big attack. Dark Templar in the meantime being a nuisance, not really getting any kills yet. You should be able to recall your allied units too with a mothership. What about... I mean, I would like to see Marines get recalled into the opponent's base. Again, I don't think it's particularly useful, but I'd love to see it. That would be so cool. I have not seen Marines getting recalled. Can you recall Banelings into your opponent's army? I don't know. Alright, big aggressive push over here. Marines end up sniping the Immortal immediately. Yeah, MaxPax's and Spirit are once more in their defensive mechanic here, much like they did in game number 1. Couple of Zealots being a nuisance, but the defensive and the spawning Marines here at home are gonna be fine. Once more, MaxPax's is stabbing him in the back. Spirit is really starting to outgrow everything, though. We saw a very similar thing in game number 1. I kind of felt like MaxPax's at the time was also stealing the show a little bit with all sorts of fancy abilities. Some really nice trading, but then you look at the supply count and you realize, wait a second, Spirit is actually building a lot of stuff. This is still very defendable here for Team Red, but they have to be in the right position at the right time, and I've kind of got a feeling that they may already be kind of caught off guard here, that Siege Tank could be useful. Guardian Shields would also be extremely useful, actually. Guardian Shields to keep Marines alive. Ay, ay, ay. Anyways, an extra sentry or two would have been incredibly useful. +2 armor to everything inside of the bubble. Reinforcements are showing up right now, though, for the players in red. In the meantime, we do have the Zealots and a Dark Templar group going to town as well. And yeah, Clem is losing so much inside of the main base to the point that they decide to tap out. And that means that we have a very competitive series that will go all the way to Game 5 for the first best of 2 I've seen at a high level in quite a long time. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, in my mind, it's always been a bit of a mess, right? Like, team games in StarCraft 2 have always been relatively messy. But when I think back of the early StarCraft 2 release, right? The very first time that anybody ever got to play StarCraft 2, the strategies that were played back then were also incredibly rough around the edges. A lot of people like to think back, like they look at the Wings of Liberty games through rose-tinted glasses and stuff, and they try to reminisce over the good old days, but honestly, the game at this point in time is significantly better. There's a lot more refinement that can really only happen over the course of time with a lot of games. And I kind of feel like the team games in StarCraft 2 they've never really had that. Like, not at least to the same extent as 1 versus 1. If you watch like a Zerg versus Protoss, for example, Hero going up against Serral, right? Like that is a properly refined set of games. We have a lot of layers to the different attacks. We have a lot of different strategies that can be executed. And there's a lot of counterplay over potential builds that could be happening. In 2 versus 2, it's a lot more, a lot more Ooga Booga strats. A lot more caveman build orders. But that's only because there just haven't been that many events. I wonder how long it's gonna be until we really see some actual, like, metas. Like, I don't even really know if we can call this a meta right now. In my mind, there isn't really, like, a go-to set of strategies that you can really build. Like, what's the best? Is Zerg Terran better than Protoss Terran? Is Protoss Zerg overpowered? I don't know. I'm actually not sure. I have no idea. Like, I'm genuinely not sure. I think Protoss Terran is probably best. But that's mostly just because, again, I'm thinking of 1v1 balance. And I feel like they would just synergize a little bit better with one another. But it's a lot of unexplored territory. Could be a lot of fun. Could be a lot of fun. At least I'm enjoying it right now. I think as the occasional set of games. Maybe get a little update once a week, once every 2 weeks or so. I'll keep an eye out on, see what we can do. Alright, anyways, Stargate build right here for MaxPax's. Stargate build over on the other side of the map too. So this is Trigger now going into a Stargate of his own as well. The Stargate game was obviously nice. We did see Stargate into Blink. We did also see the Mass Phoenix. Couple of units here going to town. In general, units actually that aren't very good though in 1v1 do find more popularity in the team games. I think the Phoenix is a good example. I think Ravens would probably also have a lot more utility. Because like those are units that kind of rely. So we do have a couple of units going around the site. Hellion going towards the right. Reapers going into the main base. Spirit dealing a good bit of damage. He does lose the Hellion there. But he's dealing a bunch of damage with those Reapers still. They're going to go down as well, but not without a fight. Another probe. Can we get one more? Nah. Not going to happen. Anyways, there's units in the game. As we now have a follow-up as well right here from MaxPax's. This is not going to be super successful. 7 probes in total, that's not bad. Reaper still being a nuisance. Alright. Anyways, there's units in the game that kind of rely on you to have a bulk of other troops on the ground. Like, for example, Phoenix. Phoenix is alone. Kind of garbage. But with a bunch of other troops, they can be really good. And the same can be said for example, Ravens as well. Super useful unit. A lot of utility, but very silly to have as like a one-man army, right? You kind of need it in conjunction with other troops. Same can be said for like Zerg spellcasters. I think Infestors and Vipers are amazing, but not really an army on their own. You can probably create an insanely cool and very powerful unit composition if Zerg is just spellcaster focused. It's a bit silly, we don't really see it in 1 versus 1, but I can imagine if you can dedicate, like normally you only have like say like 30 supply for spellcasters in general. If you have a teammate, obviously you could dedicate a lot more of your supply to well, utility casters. Like, for example, the Raven. Like, for example, the Infestor. Right? There's a lot of cool... I think there's a lot of layers that we could... Anyways, we have once more mass Phoenix production here from MaxPax's. This is what we saw in the second game. It did not go their way at the time because there was a big follow-up push from the other players. I didn't realize we could go straight into 4 Stargates like that, though. Yeah, no, you're not going to be able to fight this with an air army anymore. At this point, we do see Trigger falling back to something else. There's about 0% chance he can catch up against an opponent who's going 4 Stargate Phoenix. You just can't catch up anymore. You have to make a transition. I would imagine that this is once more Spirit giving his ally a bunch of money. Because the only way, and I think that's probably what happened as well in the second game of the series, I just didn't really think about it at the time. The only way that MaxPax's can actually do this quick of a transition towards 4 additional, or 3 additional Stargates in addition to the one he already had, and the Nexus and everything else, is if he's getting fed by his ally. Yeah, being a StarCraft 2 feeder is considered to be a good thing. Very different than in MOBAs. Now, giving your ally all your money is not a substitute for bad macro, by the way. I have seen that in team games too, where somebody's like, yo, I've spent all my money. It's like, yeah, because you gave your allies all your reasons. That's not how it works. Okay, now, MaxPax's is once more gonna try and attempt a transition towards, I think, carriers. I think that's the follow-up plan. Could go Tempest as well if he wants to, but I think carriers make more sense. Yeah, maybe he'll go Tempest. This is much like proper late game, though, for Protoss in 1 versus 1. It's a delicate moment. It's that weird transitionary period where you don't quite have your Skytles ready to go yet. There's so many Phoenixes, though. Okay. 2 medevacs go down. Phoenix actually lives. Oh. He slept on the job for a little bit. 2 Phoenixes bite the dust because of it. And here go Clem and Trigger again. In the second game of the series, just as a reminder, they were hit in the face by a bunch of Phoenixes at the time too. And then they went across the map and killed their opponents. It's one of those moments where, like, yeah, you can harass them and you can strategically counter them and all that, but you do still have to, be able to punch back. This is not really a situation yet, though, where Clem is ready to go. He does have Stimpack, but he doesn't yet have combat shields. He does have the +1 attacking upgrade done, but he doesn't have the +1 armor. I don't know if he wants to go. I also don't really know if Trigger has got a whole lot of stuff ready to go. What has Trigger been up to? Keep in mind that Trigger opened up Stargate, and then he had to make a transition. So maybe that's enough, yeah, to go for the 4 carrier production. 4 carriers. 7-ish minutes into the game is when they started up. Mothership coming up as well. That is an awful lot of Skytles at this phase in the game. I think this is basically the perfect situation right now for the team in the top left-hand corner. But it's still a delicate spot. It's not an easy position to win from. It's a couple more minutes that they need before they will properly be able to max out. +2 is already coming. +2 air attacks. That's a big upgrade, by the way, for carriers in particular. Interceptors just benefit from that one tremendously. Maybe this map layout is also a little bit, like, I don't really know too much about. This is Crimson Research Lab. I don't really know about the details on the different maps. What is the fastest possible Stargate you could get in 1 versus 1? What about 2 versus 2 when your ally can feed you money? You could get a mama ship out real early. Trigger is going into... Aw, that's cute. Trigger is going into the charge research at this point. Trying to make sure that he's got enough stuff. Now they will behold, though, the final weapon of the well, never mind, they went back. The final weapon of the Protoss. Well, they know it now. They've scanned it. There's carriers. There's 4 more about to spawn. +2 is about halfway. They need to get a move on, but I don't know if they actually can fight this. Phoenixes can lift up about, well, half of the important units. How many siege tanks do we have? We do have, by the way, double factory production. Bunch of Marines in the front too. Mama ship is taking a little bit of a nap, but I've got a feeling this is totally fine. Although I say that, maybe a time warp on the ramp would have been handy. Little drop on the right side of the map too from Spirit, just to try and be a bit of a backstabber. It's not going to achieve much, but it is buying a bit of time. Medevac drop was attempted towards the main base, but not enough stuff available there. Clem is saying, yo, come down to the low ground, let's play. They don't want to go down to the low ground. They don't want to play. Marines up on the high ground already too to intercept any drop. Stasis ward here to try and slow all of this down. We're even gonna go for the Anion Pulse Crystals. A very uncommon upgrade in multiplayer these days. That is the ranged upgrade for Phoenixes. Very good, actually, in the right situation. We mostly see it in Protoss first. Whoa. Whoa! Alright, sorry. The little map doodad thingamajig was jumping around. Very good in PvP, I guess, in the right situation in Protoss versus Protoss. Not so useful in the other matchups, because Phoenixes aren't so useful in the other matchups. Can I look at that guy again? Whoa! Do it again, do it again. Go up, go up! Go up! Okay, sorry. I don't want to shout at you, but I have an engagement to cast. Actually, they decided to go back. We can look at our little... Oh! I'm taking name suggestions for this dude right over here. He seems nice. Marine drop. Top right hand corner. Ooh, it's gonna force a recall, but he decides to target fire down the Nexus itself. I mean, yeah, kill the Templar, kill the Nexus, kill everything else. Not bad whatsoever. In the meantime, there's also a little push here from Clem, who is maxed out, by the way. Clem's army is huge. It's just that it's mostly him fighting. Doesn't look like his ally has too much to work with. Cloak has been activated on Marines! Cloaked Marines is one of the most cursed things you can ever witness as a StarCraft player. That is what the unit needed. A cloaking upgrade. Alright. Here's the rest of the army coming in. Carriers, I mean, they need interceptors to be able to shoot. A lot of the Marines can gun them down pretty quick, but I think at this point there's more interceptors than there are Marines. Yeah, so Clem is forced to retreat. In the meantime, his ally trying to go around the site, but a lot of siege tanks up on the high ground. This little area has been perfectly controlled by the players from the top left-hand corner. If you have a cloaked Marine, does that make them a ghost? Or does that make it a ghost with Stimpeg? I don't really... Anyways. Well, they're being a little overly ambitious, man. I don't think there's enough here, but the Marines and the Stalkers are starting to get at least very close to the carriers themselves. Ultimately, though, there is just not enough stuff to shut it down. And that means that MaxPax's and Spirit obtain the victory over Clem and Trigger 3-2.